Business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Inspiration, motivation takes. Listen to the podcast. We're all about to talk about life. Our guests will share their life story. We want you to success in life and business. We're ready and we will start shortly. We're gonna talk about life. We're going to speak on business. You're gonna shine bright. We are going to witness. Business with a servant's heart. With hosts Steve, Ramona, and Ray. Inspiration, education talks. Listen to the podcast. Steve, Ramona.
Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. I'm your host, Steve Ramona. I'm so fired up to have you join us today. My guest, I spent 10 minutes with him. You guys are going to fall in love with this guy. I already have. What he does is a huge servant's heart. And that's what we explored the idea of launching this podcast. How can you take a servant's heart purpose in your business, but also your life, and make an impact and a difference in your world? Our guests are going to come in and motivate you, inspire you, and educate you in that servant's heart mode with stories, with things they've done, with people they've met. And you're going to be able to take some notes, but also do some great things. I'll tell you at the end of the show what you could do. Here's your homework today, audience. Yeah, I know people go, God, a podcast has homework? Well, this is a cool one. I want you to think about how you're going to serve yourself and others today, what impact you'll create today. Send me an email. Let me know what you've done, because a lot of people reach back out to me going, I forgot. I listened to the show and I waited a month. I waited 4 weeks. Start serving today. It could be large. It could be small. Doesn't matter, but just go out and change somebody's life. I want to thank my incredible sponsor, Pantheon. Join a community of high-income entrepreneurs and business owners who are changing the world with a huge thought leader platform. And you can be part of this membership to grow your business, but also make it a huge impact. With that being said, impact, growth, there's a lot of stutterers out there. And my guest today is going to tell you how he helps them with a servant's heart and making a huge difference in such a community of people that really want that and need that help. So I want to welcome to the show, James. Welcome, my friend.
Thank you so much for having me, Steve. I'm really happy to be here.
I know we've only met 10, 15 minutes, but you've become my friend because of what you do. And what I'm learning from you, the stuttering community is much larger than we think. How big is it really?
It is absolutely enormous. It's 1 in 100 people stutter. And you wouldn't know it because so many people who stutter are just amazing at hiding it and not stuttering where you can hear them. But it comes at such a cost. And I would love for people who stutter to know that their voice matters and there is a way forward.
Tell me your story. I know we talked about you have an incredible story about brain surgery, and that led you to this inspiration of being a I can't even say it, speech pathologist to help stutterers.
So, yeah, well, I've been a speech pathologist for a long time now, 16 years. I started working with people who stutter even before I finished grad school. I was in this group stuttering program where it was really intense, 10 hours a day. We don't do it that way anymore, but like 8 to 10 hours a day with homework for 10 days straight. It was a lot. And people were coming in, stuttering really intensely, and they were leaving fluent. And this inspired me so much. I changed my grad paper. I started going and wanting to do this as my little side specialty. So I got mentors, some wonderful people in the Vancouver community where I'm from, and they sent me clients. They helped me get experience, walked me through some of my early days, and I was able to see some really good success. Early on, I was seeing people becoming more fluent. That just means speaking with less stuttering, and they would leave and I would feel really good about myself. But then one day, as I started to build Stuttering Blueprint, and this was after I had been through a lot of stuff myself. I'd been through a divorce, I lost my dog, I got diagnosed with a brain tumor, I had to get surgery, I had a financial crisis, and I was burning out from my generalist practice. So all of the pillars of my life were just falling down around me. And nonetheless, I took the big risk to go out and be an entrepreneur and focus only on stuttering now. And to do, of course, I reached out to some old clients. And one client, I got on a Zoom call with him, and he looked at me through the screen. Now, this guy had been one of my stars. He had gone from fairly intense stuttering to fluent, confident, doing his thing in the community, just killing it. But when I talked to him 10 years later, I hadn't seen him in a long time. And he looked at me through the screen and he said, James, it just started creeping back. I don't know what happened. And, this hit me like a ton of bricks because I thought this was a person that I had, fixed. And I say that with finger quotes because I don't want to fix people. I want to help people. But that was a mindset shift I needed to make. And when he said that, it made me go back to the research. It made me go back to other mentors, learned about stuttering as neurodiversity, just like ADHD or autism, left-handedness. And I revamped my program and I started working not only on powerful speaking techniques, but mindset techniques, ways to feel okay in yourself as a person who stutters, so that when those occasional stutters still happen, and they will, because we all do it occasionally, not to get thrown off, not to feel like I'm broken. And that's how I serve now.
You said a powerful message. You're awesome. Because I'm going to tell you why. You said, I don't fix, I help, and I /support. Audience, that's a servant's heart. That's what a servant, we don't fix people as a servant's heart. We help and support them. And that should be in your business like you're doing. And, congratulations on entrepreneurial journey. It's a year and a half and you're going to just do some great things. But people that stutter that are listening or have friends or family that stutter, can you help all of them? I know it's a big question, but I'm curious.
Right now, I'm focusing on adults. I can help all ages. And I don't want you to not reach out if you just don't happen to be an adult, or if you have a child, please reach out anyway. I can give you some advice and I might create more than one program. Right now, I'm focusing on adults just to keep it simple. And I was wondering, would you mind if I shared like a client story just to
I'd love to
give
hear it. Yes.
it's a bit more fun than just telling you what I do. I want to tell you what's happening right now with one of my clients. She's amazing. She joined about 3 weeks ago. She's not even finished the program yet, but she's already thriving. She started out hopeful but hesitant. She wanted change, but like so many adults who stuttered, she tried other things before and they hadn't worked, and that made her feel that hesitancy. But she showed up anyway. I mean, we only ask 15 minutes of practice a day. And even though she's missed a day here, a day there, she's still like making progress way ahead of schedule. Her stuttering has dropped fast. And that's just a sign of what steady, consistent practice can do. But the biggest shift has been her mindset. She's finally realizing she doesn't have to always sound perfect, especially not with like close family and friends. And letting go of that constant pressure in the low stakes moments is exactly what's giving her the confidence to rise in the high stakes ones. Because stuttering doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. We all do it. And now that we know it's a neurodiversity like ADHD and autism, it's just a different kind of mind. But most people who stutter and most of the world still thinks that it's like a disorder. And I want to be here to say that it's not. So, like I said, even fluent speakers trip over their words sometimes. Speech is one of the most complex things we do. It takes rapid coordination of brain, lungs, vocal cords, tongue, lips, and jaw, like all in real time. And you're processing language all at the same time. Like, a cat is agile. Humans speak. This is something that we all are naturally good at. And then when we have these tiny little breakdowns, we say, "Oh no, I'm a bad speaker," but it's not the case. But when most people slip up, they move on without thinking twice. But people who identify as stutterers, they brace for it. They track every word. They scan for danger. They avoid the sounds and the situations and even conversations that the ones that matter most, like the high stakes ones, like putting yourself out there, job interviews. That's what they avoid a lot of the time. But my client is done with that. That's why she's starting to speak freely. That pressure is what she's finally learning to release. And the shift isn't unique to her. It's part of a larger pattern I see with so many adults who stutter. She's discovering like ease in communication, what it actually feels like on the inside. And she's not alone. My other clients who reach this point, they begin using their techniques intentionally on their own terms. We start using a hierarchy of different challenging speaking situations, starting like with the easy ones, close friends and family again, building up to demanding situations, ordering food, speaking up in meetings, phone calls. And then finally, we move into the high stakes moments, the job interviews, presentations, and even speaking in large groups. And because they have a technique that they've learned and they've discovered, now they're owning it. And it's just this fluid way of talking. It takes a little while to learn. I mean, if you're doing 15 minutes a day, probably 3 weeks, you got it. If you want to put in more effort, it could be as short as a week. But the real trick is using it. And that's where that speech hierarchy comes in.
Yeah.
And so, sorry, you're going to say?
No, I just real quick is when you said about stuttering, I now realize that in my head popped up like, Steve, you stuttered. I've stuttered as a host in a podcast. It's no big deal.
It
Just
really
happens.
is.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel that way to people who stutter. The lived experience, I don't want to
Yeah.
denigrate the lived experience because a lot of my clients have really gone through a lot of trauma, and I want to acknowledge that. And it may not feel like a big deal to me and you, but it's a big deal to them, and that is worth honoring.
To have a higher success rate, the client has to do the work, correct?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, there's no getting away from it. That to do be. Oh, look, I just did it, right?
Yeah.
And I don't identify as a person who stutters, but I still stutter sometimes. It's
Yeah.
just we all do. But yeah, if you don't put in the work, there's not much we can do. But the work isn't as onerous as you would think it would be. It's I think sometimes what's harder than the changing the speech pattern is changing the mindset. Because if you change the speech pattern without changing the mindset, it'll last for a little while and it'll fade away. But if you change the speech pattern and change the mindset, now you've got something that can last. And that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah. And it's come to my head is that phrase brain fart. I just had a brain fart when that's what the non-stutterers, we call that. Oh, I just had a brain fart. I forgot it or whatever, which we just take for granted. But you're right. As a stutterer, I'm hearing from you is it's much more impactful. Talk about how much the mindset is so important. You mentioned it, but how important you work with the mindset as well as the stuttering.
If you want this to last, what has to happen is to learn that when an occasional stutters happens, that you can move through it without getting thrown off. And that is actually, I would say, the more challenging piece, as I say, than the initial change of the speech pattern. Totally doable, but there's so much trauma that's built up over the years. People telling you to slow down, even if they're not judging you, you might feel like they are. And that is more important than whether they really are or not. So, busting the myths about stuttering. Stuttering does not mean you're low intelligence. It doesn't even mean that you're nervous. Nervousness is a result of stuttering, not and a cause in a way. It could make it more intense, but nervousness does not initiate the first signs of stuttering. And someone, just because they stutters, does not mean that they're nervous, but it can easily make them nervous because of what they think it means or how they think other people will perceive them. So it's related, but I don't want people to go around thinking that every time you hear someone stutters, it means they're nervous or less confident. It just is absolutely not true.
Yeah, it's like somebody in a wheelchair or somebody who doesn't drink, don't point to a certain direction because you don't know the shoes they're wearing. I love that. That's as a servant heart from the other side. When we hear stutterers, don't judge and don't tell them what to do. Just be supportive. I love that.
If I could also mention
Yeah.
that I have a masterclass. It's really short. It goes into more detail about how we get there. I've explained it now, but the 19-minute masterclass, it won't take you too long, and it'll give you a real chance to like dive deep on not only the speech piece and how we change it, but also the mindset piece. And I'll give you a link to that so that people can
Yeah.
check it.
We'll put in the show notes too, so people have access to it. We'll talk about it at the end here. Transformation, a servant heart. Name of this show, transforms people. If you do it, talk about the transformation as you work with your clients. Besides not just stuttering, besides mindset, what other transformation? I just did it myself. See, it's funny when you're aware of it. It's like when you do it, it's like it really is no big deal. It's so great. See, guests can teach me so much as a host. That's why I love doing this. Talk about other transformations that the stutterers have when you work with them, besides less stuttering and better mindset.
It's the same kind of journey that I needed to go on as an entrepreneur, letting go of perfectionism. How does perfectionism hold us back far more than help us? And I have seen clients not only change the way that they speak and their attitude to their speaking, but their whole attitude to putting themselves out in the world, whether that's in business, whether that's in their career, whether that's in their love life sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not here to be a relationship coach, but if you are feeling like you can't talk, making friends, like introducing yourself to new people, it's such a broad reaching benefit to learn how to be okay with making mistakes. And I don't even call stuttering a mistake, but a lot of people who stutter feel that
Yeah.
way. And I want to meet them where they are, because if I just led, and I have done this in the past, and this is one of the mistakes I made along the way, is I led with mindset. I was like, oh, yourself, and we'll work on speech later. No, we really do need to work on speech first. I don't think people who stutter are in a place to work on mindset until they feel a sense of control. I mean, it's different for different people, and that's why I individualize my program. So some people need to talk to me on their own a little bit first. Some people like to be in a group. Some people want to move from one to the other. So I have options in that regard.
It's fantastic because some people want to be private, especially in something like this that could be very personal. And then having a group and listen to other stories or listen to other questions that people. I love that you do that because it's powerful. You're hitting everybody where you can hit them, where they're comfortable. How does a stutterer handle that situation where people judge them, critique them, all the things that you mentioned? On the stutterer side, what's some mindset things they can do with that?
Oh man, I saw this wonderful guy recently on a podcast, Jefferson. Oh, it's slipping my mind. He's a lawyer, and he's Jefferson Day. No, I don't know. Sorry, but
That's all right.
he's got these wonderful comebacks. When you are being belittled, and one of the things he talks about was saying something like, "I'm surprised," and then when they respond, it's like, I'm surprised you went there. Sort of putting it back on them. If someone's going to go out there and say something to you that is going to be belittling, you turn it around and put the spotlight on them for what they just said. It's very powerful, and I was really impressed with that. I'm so sorry I can't remember his last name right now. But I've even been sending out emails to my clients with his work and the links to his podcast because it's so powerful. I think he's great. And another thing is, like, say you're getting interrupted, and I'm stealing from him again. I really should know what his name is. But say you're being interrupted and you don't know what to say. The first thing is let them interrupt you because you don't want to come across as defensive. And then what did he say? When you interrupt me, I can't hear you.
Oh, wow.
It's a powerful statement. And I'm gonna look up the name for you so I'm not stealing his work,
Yeah.
so that you can.
And I will
But
put in the show notes. Yeah, grab the link to the podcast. We'll put it. I have no problem putting other podcasts in there because you just talked about what I think. Look what you've learned. You're sharing it with others from another podcast, and it's the power. And thank you for that because I think today still stutterers get belittled, and yeah, that's probably the right word. Like they were when they were kids.
Yes, we cannot argue. There's absolutely 100%. There is prejudice out there.
Prejudice, yeah.
I would say that the number of people that are prejudiced, a few small people kind of ruin it for everybody. It's kind of like, but and unfortunately, that gets internalized by people who stutter. And I think people who stutter's biggest critic is themselves, by far.
Yeah.
That voice
Yeah.
in the head that says you're not good enough, you can't do it. And I have that voice. And it's usually around, I must be one of the only people in the world who feels not good enough because I don't stutter. Because I look at other speech therapists who stutter and thinking, oh, can I do that? Am I good enough? I mean, they stutter, they've had the lived experience. I have met more people who stutter and worked with more people who stutter than most people who stutter have by far. And yet I still feel not good enough. I still have these things I need to overcome, which is why I've done things like learn a meditation practice. I recently went to Nepal and learned Vipassana. And while I was there, I was doing volunteer work with this organization called Karma Flights to get out of my own head, stop thinking about me and start serving others. And that did a great deal to alleviate this not enoughness that I feel. And I think that's a human thing. And that's why having been through crisis, having been through brain surgery and divorce and all of these things and having the pillars of my life crumble around me, even if I don't stutter, I know it's a very human feeling to feel like I'm not good enough. And I've been there, and if I can get through it, still working through it, but if I can get through it, I can help others through it. And that's how I want to serve.
Get the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say, you're being human. That's audience. That's all it is. It's as simple as that. And I appreciate that. Time flew. I'm looking at the clock going, holy mackerel, you have so much to offer. Audience, he's coming back for part 2 in a couple months. So look out for that because this guy's amazing. But let's end with a fun question. So I've got a reservation at a restaurant for you, table of 4. You're obviously going to sit in one of the chairs. In the 3 empty chairs, who would you invite, whether they're dead or alive, and what food would you order?
Oh my gosh. Wow. Putting me on the spot. I would love to see my grandfather again. So I grew up with him and he was an amazing influence on my life. So if you say dead or alive, I would want to see my grandfather again. Who else? Why not? You know, I would love to sit next to maybe like Emily Blunt because she's a person who stutters and she's made a lot of amazing, done a lot of amazing work. with the National Stuttering Association and bringing awareness to stuttering. And so I'd love to hear her 2 cents. Gosh, oh boy, you're making me think here. I guess of course I want to pick the best one, right? Off the top of my head, I'm like thinking King George V,
Yeah.
because if you guys remember the movie The King's Speech, he was the king during World War II who brought the country, along with Winston Churchill, I'm talking about the UK now, brought them through World War II, and he's a person who stuttered, and he had to make all of these speeches. He had to be perfect. He didn't get to make mistakes because in those days, there was no the modern sensibility of self-acceptance and accepting people with differences just didn't exist then. So he had even more pressure on him than we do now. So those are the people I picked. I think they're good picks. I'm sure I could have come up with some more if I'd thought about this one ahead of time.
What are we eating at the table?
Oh, what are we eating at the table? Dalbat. Okay, so dalbat is just rice and beans, a little vegetarian dish that I was eating in Nepal. And I have learned that something so simple can have such a wide range of flavors, and you can eat a lot of it and stay trim.
Yeah, as simple as better. And it's interesting. And I love your table because it's your family and your love, which is stuttering, that you do. I didn't know Emily Blunt was a stutterer. You watch her. I love her as an actress. You would never know. Amazing. So that's what he does. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor to speak with your audience and you. And for those that are listening, and especially if you're someone who stutters, here's what I want you to take away. There are people out there that need to hear your voice. Not a polished version, not a perfect version, but the real you. And of course, if you want some help learning how to speak a little bit more fluently and work on that mindset, please check out my masterclass. It's only 19 minutes. I promise it's packed with value. I don't want to bore you guys. Quick 19 minutes. I hope it'll change your life.
And how can people reach out to you? Because I know people are going to want to.
Well, if you do click on the masterclass, it'll give you a link to book a call with me. The first call is just I just want to talk to people. We're not going to hard sell you. That does not work on people who stutter. This is like, I need to be invited to help someone. I cannot force it on anyone, and I wouldn't dream of doing that. And if you invite me to help you, I would be honored to do so. So you can get that.
I love that phrase, be invited to help. That audience, I'm going to borrow that. You can borrow that when you're talking to people. What a great way to bring value to people and for people to sign up and use your services. James, thanks again. I can't wait to do part 2. You're an absolute blessing to an incredible community. God bless you. Audience, here's the last thing, the call to action. Subscribe to my YouTube channel or others. But here's why. This is a perfect show that this link to this podcast is a gift. James is actually a gift to somebody. Can you imagine you're talking to somebody, he's a business owner and he stutters. He's afraid to be in front of his team. And he reaches out to James or listens to this podcast, then reaches out or just listens and gets some great tips and you've impacted their life. Podcast links are gifts. That's the way I look at them. So take this, subscribe, get as many podcasts you can. If they resonate with somebody, share it with them and they can go and reach out to James or whoever it may be and make a difference in their life, because that's what a servant's heart does. Me and James want to thank all of you for watching or listening to this podcast, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. Have a great day, everyone.